Uh-oh. Hello world, Lindsay here, liaison to the senior partners of Blackhorn and Lynx. Let's play CyberHyve.
Tuxtepec, Mexico. If creatures from outer space are heading to Earth, Mexico's witches will be ready to receive them, their leader said Saturday. Antonio Vazquez told reporters during the 4th Annual International Witches Conference that Latin America's first UFO airport was being built in Mexico for the expected arrival this year of space visitors. This is the year of direct communication with the extraterrestrials, said Vazquez, leader of Mexico's witches. About 150 occultists from Chile, Canada, the United States, Mexico, and Venezuela are attending the 3-day conference in Tuxtepec, a town nestled in the mountains of the state of Oaxaca, 180 miles southeast of Mexico City. Vazquez said his followers are building a concrete UFO airport 90 feet in diameter to receive the first spaceships. The UFO port is under construction in the mountains of the state of Puebla east of Mexico City. He claimed the installations in Puebla are the first of their kind in Latin America. He did not say where other UFO airports were located. Vazquez said that UFO port will be perfectly round since UFOs are round and have 3 feet which look like cushions. Washington. 20 years ago the Air Force closed its official Project Blue Book investigation into UFOs and bowed out of the flying saucer business without finding a single little green man. In a December 17, 1969, memorandum to Air Force Command, Air Force Secretary Robert Siemens said Project Blue Book could not be justified on the ground of national security or in the interest of science. The Air Force concluded none of the UFO's sightings presented a threat to national security or proved the existence of extraterrestrial vehicles. Today, the Air Force refers UFO sightings to local authorities, while the National Aeronautics and Space Administration tells callers, "Hey, we're not in the business and don't investigate these things," a spokesman said. Voluntary UFO organizations, made up of concerned and curious citizens, are just about all that's left now, at least officially, said Walter Andrus, international director of the Mutual UFO Network in Seguin, Texas. Andrus said his organization has obtained more than 7,000 official government documents that he claimed reveal all branches of the military, intelligence agencies and even the State Department are collecting UFO reports. The U.S. Air Force was simply a front to receive reports from the public, Andrus said. The good reports never got to the Air Force, they went to the CIA and the National Security Agency. According to the Pentagon, however, for more than 2 decades the Air Force and the Air Force alone led the official government investigation into alleged close encounters. The first Air Force UFO program, Project Sign, started in 1948. Its name was later changed to Project Grudge and finally, in 1953, Project Blue Book. When Project Blue Book ended, the Air Force had investigated 12,618 UFO sightings, and of those 11,917 were apparently caused by aircraft, satellites re-entering the atmosphere, weather balloons, and natural phenomena, such as stars, lightning, and energized gases. Not counting hoaxes, 701 of the sightings reported between 1948 and 1969 remain unexplained, according to the Air Force. All official records have since been turned over to the National Archives. Critics charged the Air Force was not treating UFOs seriously, and Andrus said in a recent interview, the Air Force was doing a terrible job. They were just going through the motions. But the official Air Force position remains that the decision to discontinue UFO investigations was based on a number of factors. These included independent studies by the University of Colorado and the National Academy of Sciences that found no evidence of UFOs, and the Air Force's 2 decades of experience investigating UFO reports, the Air Force said. The Mutual UFO Network, which was formed as Blue Book, was going under, and similar organizations continue to investigate alleged sightings. We find that 80 to 90 of the raw reports that come from the man or person on the street can be explained, Andrus said. But it's the 10 to 20% that defy any earthly explanation. Washington. A robed man carrying a shepherd's staff walked into a bank across the street from the Treasury Department Monday and requested a $900,000 loan for religious purposes, the FBI said. Suspicious officials at the Riggs National Bank called the FBI to interview the man, who calls himself King AA Zodiac 15, and the federal agents determined no crime was committed and they left the scene, a spokesman said. The bank is located on busy Pennsylvania Avenue, across from the Treasury Department and not far from the White House. Scores of homeless people, many who are former mental patients, are known to frequent the parks in the area. The FBI spokesman said Zodiac, dressed in a robe and carrying a shepherd's staff, wanted the $900,000 loan for religious purposes. The loan was not granted. A bank spokesman said, the incident ended with no actions being taken against anyone. But an FBI agent joked Zodiac parted Pennsylvania Avenue when he left the bank. Arlington, Virginia. Hero, a robot who is supposed to scare off burglars by saying, "Warning, intruder. I have summoned the police," was caught sleeping on the job and stolen while his owners were on vacation, police said Friday. Tom and Priscilla Nelson banished Hero, unprogrammed, to the basement of their home 2 weeks ago and left on vacation. Unable to blurt his mechanical warning, Hero became the silent victim of a burglary, stolen along with a television set, video recorder and jewelry worth several $1,000s. I couldn't believe it, Nelson said. I never heard of a robot being stolen before. I kept wondering where the heck they were going to unload it. The police found Hero, about the size of a garbage can, in a stolen car in Washington, partially disassembled, dust-covered and with dead batteries. They also recovered his instruction manual and electrical charger. Arlington detective Ray Spivey joked that Hero wouldn't tell who did it. Nelson, a biomedical engineer, said he spent 250 hours and $1,500 creating Hero, who, in addition to saying "warning, intruder. I have summoned the police," can repeat the phrases, "I am incapable of making a mistake, therefore, you must be wrong, and you are very attractive for a human." Nelson said he plans to add a mechanical arm and pincered hand so Hero can dial a phone and call the police if he's threatened again. There are no plans to make Hero more modest. Cupertino, California. Topo is only 3 feet tall, about the height of many students, but he didn't come to Stevens Creek Elementary School to learn the battery-powered, computer-controlled robot came to teach. He's weird, 2nd grader Jenny Lucia said. He's real weird, said 1st grader Nathan Miller. He's weird, but he's real nice, 2nd grader Kirsten Olson said. Topo, who made his debut in the Cupertino School District this week, is also a good teacher, said Harvey Barnett, principal of the school located in the heart of California's high-tech, Silicon Valley. Androbot Incorporated, the Sunnyvale manufacturer of Topo, actually delivered the futuristic teaching device last week. But Barnett kept Topo at home most of the time, getting acquainted with it, or, playing with it. Topo moves about on 2 wheels at the radio-transmitted direction of a computer program or a joystick. At $995, $200 more for one that talks. Topo can move forward, backward, and turn at angles. He also has fold-out arms that can carry an apple to the teacher. It doesn't sound like a lot, Barnett said. But it's just the thing we needed. Children need concrete representation. It's difficult for them to conceptualize. But when they control Topo through the computer, they can see the results immediately. Barnett, who was instrumental in bringing computer courses to the district's elementary schools 5 years ago, said Topo was the logical extension of his efforts to teach computer literacy to our students. In Cupertino, children are formally introduced to computers when they enter kindergarten. By the 3rd grade they must be able to load them with programming disks. 6th graders are required to operate computers and write simple programs. But despite their familiarity with computers, Our students have not been scoring well on problem-solving tests, Barnett said. We hope Topo will cure that. And, so far, it's been fantastic, he said. Topo, although he's fun, is not a toy, Barnett said. To operate him, the kids have to think. Topo can be operated through a pre-programmed disk, but Barnett has the students figure out their own programs. Just making him walk 15 feet in turn takes a lot of thinking and planning, he said. Alchemical symbolism has been important in depth and analytical psychology and was revived and popularized from near extinction by the Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung. Initially confounded and at odds with alchemy and its images, after being given a copy of the translation of The Secret of the Golden Flower, a Chinese alchemical text, by his friend Richard Wilhelm, Jung discovered a direct correlation or parallels between the symbolic images in the alchemical drawings and the inner, symbolic images coming up in dreams, visions or imaginations during the psychic processes of transformation occurring in his patients. A process, which he called, process of individuation. He regarded the alchemical images as symbols expressing aspects of this process of individuation, of which the creation of the gold or lapis within were symbols for its origin and goal. Together with his alchemical mystica Sorer, Jungian Swiss analyst Marie-Louise von Fermans, Jung began collecting all the old alchemical texts available, compiled a lexicon of key phrases with cross-references and pored over them. The volumes of work he wrote brought new light into understanding the art of transubstantiation and renewed alchemy's popularity as a symbolic process of coming into wholeness as a human being where opposites brought into contact and inner and outer, spirit and matter are reunited in the hieros gamos or divine marriage. His writings are influential in psychology and for people who have an interest in understanding the importance of dreams, symbols, and the unconscious archetypal forces, archetypes, that influence all of life. Both von Fermans and Jung have contributed greatly to the subject and work of alchemy and its continued presence in psychology as well as contemporary culture. Jung wrote volumes on alchemy and his magnum opus is volume 14 of his collected works, Mysterium Coni Unctionis.
Hello! Hello!
Hello. Are you Mr. Prado?
Alvarado quiere un bizcocho! Alvarado quiere un bizcocho!
I'm sorry. I don't understand Spanish. Mr. Atwell said...
And Alvarado, my parrot, does not understand English. That makes you even, eh? Oh, you say Atwell? Senor Matthew Atwell?
Yes. He's my father-in-law. That is, he will be. I'm Jerry Spencer.
Miguel Ricardo Don Santos Prado at your service. Please to sit down.
I'm down here on a visit. Mr. Atwell said to be sure to see you.
Senor Atwell buys much coffee from me. Please to sit down. Lesson number 1 is finished. So, you wish to know something about coffee, eh?
Yes, sir. Mr. Atwell said there's beauty and romance and adventure in the story of coffee. And literature and history, too.
The story of coffee, eh? It is well, Jerry Spencer. So we come now to lesson number 2, the story of coffee. You have not heard how coffee is discovered? There are many legends, but this one I like very much. There was once a time when no one knew about coffee. It is hard to think of such a time, no? Must be a very, very sad world then. Well, at such a time in Arabia, there was a young fellow named...
Caldi!
Caldi, see, who sat under a tree all day and watched a small bunch of goats. Oh, it was very unexciting until one day...
goatherd I, as you can see. I tend my goats most patiently, but I'm as bored as I can be, for goats are such dull company.
Meh. Come
Have done with this ungoat-like prancing. How can I such conduct explain? For if mine own eyes see you dancing, by the beard of the prophet, I'm not sane.
Tis due to the cherries
Tis due to the cherries, to the cherries, to the cherries,
upon the coffee tree.
upon the coffee tree.
I ate them,
We ate them, we ate them.
and oh, they made me happy as can be.
And me, and me, and me, and me, and me. They made us feel so happy that we danced about in glee. The coffee cherries,
The coffee cherries.
it seems incredible, but maybe it's true. I'll try them myself. I'm feeling so blue. They may do for me what they've done for you. It's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. He ate the coffee cherries and it's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. He ate the coffee cherries and it's true. He ate the coffee cherries upon the coffee tree. He ate the coffee cherries. It's true as you can see. It's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. He ate the coffee cherries and it's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. He ate the coffee cherries and it's true.
This is just a story, you understand. Coffee cherries do not have as much power as that.
And how well Caldy and his goats danced, too.
There is much dancing in the history of coffee. In the coffee houses of Constantinople were told the stories of Arabian Nights, stories of Scheherazade. In the ballet of Scheherazade, there is a dance of the prince and princess. Oh,
Boy, talk about poetry in motion.
poetry. He's a poetry and coffee, too. There was a time when we were like clubs, where big poets and writers came like Oliver Goldsmith and Samuel Johnson, and people of the theater like David Garrick and the great actress Mrs. Siddons, and other people listened while they talked. Ah, it must have been great times to sit around the big table and drink coffee and see great men and hear stories which the whole world would hear one day.
And would you believe it, my dear fellow, he did not know me.
But did you tell him you were the great actor, David Garrick?
I bade him look upon me. There was no need for taking my name in vain.
Here comes Dr. Johnson. Johnson. It's Samuel Johnson. Here comes Sam Johnson.
And Boswell, as usual, at his heels.
Gentlemen. Gentlemen. How do you do? My dear Oliver Goldsmith, I ask pardon for my tardiness. In truth, young Boswell here is much too good a listener. I had no mind of the time.
Your apologies, my dear Johnson, fall on ears unheeding. I've scarce noticed your absence, what with sipping coffee, so delicious, to say nothing of a free seat at a performance of the great Garrick yonder.
And David is a pretty lad. 'Tis sad that where such beauty reigns, seems not a welcome place for brains. Pray make no note of that, Boswell. The rhyme's not bad, but the meter's faulty. I wench, my coffee. Didst think I came to...
You come to be listened to, I'll be bound. Coffee may please you, but talk's your bread and meat.
You're a pert miss.
Away with you. 'Tis the ears on your cup that'll listen to your talk, not mine.
Egad, I think I'll give that to posterity.
Ah, Mrs. Siddons. The actress.
Siddons? What does she hear?
Gentlemen. Gentlemen.
Ah, my dear Mrs. Siddons, you do me too much honor to seek me out here.
Samuel Johnson, you promised me a play. You will not escape me in a coffee house. Siddons is no disdainer of coffee. Have me a cup and a chair.
Aye, wench, coffee for the lady. And as for a chair, surely a seat not fit for greatness and beauty, but 'twill be a throne if you do sit upon it.
I'm afraid you're as flattering to this hardwood bench as to me. I trust you may be as flattering to the coffee. That is, when it comes.
What's this? No coffee? I went. Coffee for my lady.
Hurry, hurry! Coffee!
I'm coming.
Here, let me have it.
Egad, my lady. The poor girl has fallen before so much greatness and loveliness all in one person. 'Twas too much for her.
La, Mr. Johnson.
There was lots of history in coffee houses, too. The French Revolution began in a coffee house. The American Revolution had lots of plans made for it in coffee houses. On the night of April 18th, 1775, the ride of Paul Revere was perhaps being planned in the Green Dragon Coffee House in Boston. James Otis was there, John Adams, and a young friend of Paul Revere. They talked very quietly about the coming of British soldiers. Ah, senor, it was a very, very bad time.
Gentlemen, I have asked Paul Revere to meet us here tonight. I've had news. 2 brigades of redcoats have been ordered to move against us at once.
When, Mr. Adams?
That I don't know, Mr. Otis, nor by what road. But the situation is desperate. We must resist now or never.
You have no question of which it will be.
None. The Minutemen have settled that. But we've got to know when they'll strike and where. We haven't a chance otherwise.
I wish young Revere would get here.
He'll be here, Mr. Otis. He promised to meet me here by 10 o'clock at the latest. Here he is now.
It's Paul. I'll let him in. Paul! Thank heaven you've arrived.
What have you learned?
Not enough, but this much. They're ready to march tonight.
How will they come?
I haven't yet learned. Their ship, the Somerset, is still anchored in the bay and no sign of activity. They may come by land.
We've got to know. It would be suicide to try to stop them unprepared.
We will know. And you shall help me. I'm ready. Where do we go? You go to the tower of Old North Church. It commands a view of the barracks. Watch carefully. Have 2 lanterns with you in the belfry arch of the tower. When you see which way they are to come, hang out a signal light. 1 lantern if they come by land, 2 if they leave by sea. But, Paul, what good will that do? There still will not be time. My horse and I will be on the other shore ready to start the moment I see the light. I will arouse the countryside if I have to call on the crack of doom to help me. I'm off. Wish me luck.
With thy blessing, O Lord.
So, Jerry Spencer, coffee and coffee houses played a big part in the history of the whole world. And so we finish lesson number 2. And tomorrow we start lesson number 3, how coffee is grown. Dios mío, Alvarado say it will be tomorrow pretty quick. It is long past time for bed. Come, Jerry Spencer, mi amigo. We will leave the story of coffee until tomorrow. Now the house is this way. Come. Well, Jerry Spencer, we start lesson number 3, how coffee is grown. Here is the fazenda of Miguel Ricardo dos Santos Prado, what you would call a coffee plantation. Now, here there are 1 million trees.
1 million?
Oh, you think it is many? Some fazendas have 50, 60 million trees.
Gosh, why, it doesn't seem possible.
Yet there is not 1 tree planted here where they are grown. Here, see on this cart are small trees from the nursery. where they were grown maybe 1 year, till it is maybe 18 inches high. See? Then, if it is a good tree, it is transplanted here like these in the orchard.
Then how soon does it bear fruit?
Coffee cherries appear on the trees in 3 or 4 years.
You mean you leave them alone for 3 or 4 years before you start picking?
Leave them alone? They are raised like babies. There must be no weeds. There must be all strong branches. There must not be too much sun. It takes lots of people lots of time till the trees produce, and cherries can be picked like these.
So this is how coffee beans are picked.
It is not a bean. It is a cherry.
Cherry? Well, I thought you called them that as, well, sort of a grower's name.
Oh, no, no. It is a cherry. Wait. See? Inside the cherry is the coffee bean.
Uh-huh. I see. There's a bean in every cherry, is that it? Well, sort of like the cherry pit.
There are 2 beans in each cherry. Here, I'll open it and show you.
But that cherry isn't ripe yet, is it?
It is ripe. If it is not ripe, it is not picked.
Well, there are still flowers on that tree. How can there be ripe fruit on it?
Oh, it is sometimes so. Here is a flower, a green cherry, a ripe cherry. And they are all on the same tree. Pickers must pick only cherries that are ripe. To pick a whole tree takes maybe, 6 months. See?
Then what happens to the ripe cherries?
Well, in a vat, the cherries are soaked in water until they get soft. The soft cherries go in a big machine where they are squeezed a little bit, and the coffee bean comes out the poop, like that. The coffee bean is washed clean. Then it is dried in a big open place in the sun. Now go this way over there and you will see. I will come in 4 or 5 minutes. Cuidado, señor. No pise sobre los granos de café.
Speaking to me, mister?
Tonto idiota, le dije que no pise sobre los granos de café. Anda, fuera de aquí, anda. Fuera, fuera. ¿Qué le pasa? What is happening here? Perdóname, señor Miguel, pero le dije al americano que no pisara sobre los granos de café y no puso nada de atención. Quería pisar sobre los granos.
What's it all about, anyway?
He says to you, do not walk on the coffee. And right away you walk. It made him angry.
And I thought he was calling to me. Sorry, mister.
Bueno, muy bien. Adios. Now, Jerry, over here, we continue our lesson. Now you see, here the beans are dried. They must be turned over many, many times in the sun. It takes maybe 4, 6, or 8 days.
And when the beans are dry, then are they ready for market?
No, they are not quite ready yet. For, you see, the bean still has a coat like parchment. See? In the warehouse, it goes into a big machine where it is rubbed, and the parchment coat falls off. After this, the coffee must be cleaned, sorted, and in size and in grade. Then it is packed and is ready for market. So, Jerry Spencer, we finish lesson number 3, how coffee is grown. Now, in different places, it is grown different ways. It is picked different ways. It is dry, clean, sorted different ways. But in all ways, coffee makes lots of people happy. And it will make you happy too, I think.
I hope so. It's certainly given me a pleasant visit here with you. What's that?
Oh, that is the whistle of the riverboat, which tomorrow is to take you to Big Boat, which will take you home. You will like that, eh?
Yes. But I'm going to miss you a lot, Miguel. Well, it's been marvelous, and someday soon I'm expecting to see you in New York.
Oh, someday I will come. But when one leaves with coffee all of one's lifetime, he sees all of the world. For in all of the world is coffee. Adios, mi amigo. Matthew Atwell.
Hello, Miguel. I didn't know you came back with Jerry.
I had to come back. I have to learn the lesson number 4.
Lesson number 4?
That is right. Number 1, 2, 3, Jerry has learned from Miguel. Lesson number 4, Miguel must learn from Matthew Atwell.
Yes, of course. But what is lesson number 4?
How coffee is blended, roasted, and packed. You will show Miguel, no?
I will show Miguel, yes, by all means. Come on, will you?
May we come too, Mr. Atwell?
Yes, Daddy, please.
Eh, what? Hello, you two. For a minute, I thought it was... now, run along, you two. The plant's out that way. Come on, Miguel. Let's go. Green coffee starts on its last journey from this large storage room, where it is brought directly from the dock warehouses. And there it goes into the green coffee chute. Down this chute go the bags of coffee that go to make a full blend. A bag of this variety, 3 bags of another, 2 bags of a third, whatever the blend may be. Down the chute into a huge mixer and cleaner to get rid of any dust that the coffee may have picked up in its long journey. Thoroughly mixed and cleaned, it comes up this conveyor to the receiving hopper at the top of the roaster, where an automatic scale weighs out just the required amount for each roasting. When the roaster is ready for a new batch of green coffee, the operator or roaster man releases the green coffee in the hopper above, and here it is pouring down in a green stream into this huge drum-like oven. The roasting process lasts from 15 to 18 minutes, depending on the type of coffee. The coffee beans are continually tossed around the heating unit so that each bean is evenly roasted. While the roasting is nearing completion, it is carefully examined by an expert operator, and just at the right time, he rolls up this large cooling bin, flips up the spill chute, and there you have the roasted coffee in the well-known brown coffee bean. Now I want to show you what roasting does to coffee. See here. Now, here's what that bean looked like when it was green. The roasting process brings out all the delicate flavor-giving qualities in the coffee bean, the fragrant elements that give coffee its distinctive flavor. The coffee beans expand. Aromatic vapors are released. The bean, as you see, is literally blown up to more than twice its green size, with all the flavor and aroma of the coffee imprisoned inside. Keeping this goodness which has been created fresh is part of the coffee packer's problem, because the moment air comes in contact with the coffee beans, they start to lose their strength. And if air continues to reach them, they eventually become stale and flat. In a little while, you'll see how we've solved that problem. By packing this coffee within a very short time after it's roasted and ground in vacuum cans. Cans, that is, from which the air has been removed. And so preserve the freshness of the coffee until it's opened in the home. And now, over there, the coffee is cooling and ready for grinding. Here it is going into a huge bin, after which it passes into this grinder. Before grinding, the coffee goes through ingenious cleansing mechanisms that remove every particle of foreign matter and leave only the pure coffee that pours down this chute into the packing department on the floor below. And here comes the coffee to its last operation, weighing and packing in vacuum cans. No hands touch either can or coffee from the time the can starts its journey until it's filled, sealed, and ready for packing in cases. There go the cans, each filled with exactly the right amount of freshly ground coffee. Then out they go to make room for another batch of 4 cans, while the filled cans pass on to a clincher where the cover is loosely attached. And right here comes the very important contribution of modern science to the enjoyment of coffee: packing in vacuum cans. After the covers are put on, the can enters this chamber, and just before the cover is hermetically sealed onto the filled can, an ingenious suction device draws the air out of the can, leaving the freshly roasted coffee surrounded only by its own elements, and no air to rob it of its flavor and aroma. So here we come to the end of the coffee packing story. The end of lesson number 4, Miguel. With freshly roasted coffee still retaining all its delicious quality in a can that keeps it that way. Here, let me show you. Here it is, the perfect container for good coffee. Why, where have Don and Jerry gone?
Maybe they have gone back to the office. I think maybe Jerry Spencer wonders if Matthew Atwell thinks he is good enough to be his son-in-law.